Yeah, put in the
Nuck
comments.
Nuck if you buck, as the saying goes.
What?
You ever heard of Nuck if you buck?
The fuck are you saying?
Fair enough.
What is that? We're gonna start
Everybody,
with
welcome
that.
to
Whoa,
Smark
whoa, whoa, whoa!
Avengers.
What does that mean?
Nuck if you buck?
What? You haven't explained it.
You buck.
Buck.
Yeah, buck. Like it's you know how like sometimes someone say, "Are you feeling froggy?" Like you want to get up in someone's face.
Oh yeah.
Buck kind of like a horse. So Nuck if you buck.
Oh, I don't like that.
You don't like it?
No. Take it back. Cut this bit.
Cut this bit out.
Yeah.
Hi everybody, welcome to Smark Avengers. My name is Corey, and with me is Dylan.
Hi.
And John is not with us. John is doing stuff.
He's with us in spirit.
Always in spirit.
Well, his face is on the screen like it always is.
Yeah.
You know.
I was gonna say, like, for the thumbnail for the last episode, he should be dressed as Daredevil because he told me that Daredevil is like one of his top favorite characters, and really? I feel like we should. Yeah. That surprised me too.
Huh.
I was like, oh yeah, do you read a lot of Daredevil? He's like, yeah, I'm like 60 issues away from like having the entire Daredevil run. I'm like, the entire run? He's like, yeah.
All of it?
Yeah. So yeah, John's a huge Daredevil fan, is what I learned from last week.
Also, he's blind.
John is blind.
Yeah, he has to read all the comics. He owns like all of them, but he can't read them.
Yep, it's a shame.
Yeah, but
it was a real gift of the Magi situation. Like he's like, oh man, I can't read all these comics with my eyes, and then he lost his eyes in an accident.
Yeah, I just dropped his eyes down a well, you know.
And then the eyes were found by a comic book. And the comic book was like, oh man, I'd love to read something with these, but I can't because I don't have a comic book to read.
Yeah, because I am comic book.
Yeah, just like Gift of the Magi.
Exactly like that thing that you said.
All right. Anyway, today we are going to talk about one of our favorite topics to talk about, and that's the X-Men. Dylan, you love the X-Men.
Dude. Corey, do you love the X-Men?
I do.
Do you love the X-Men more than Sonic the Hedgehog 2?
I do.
Oh. Don't ask it. Don't ask it to me.
Don't ask you. Okay.
I don't know the answer. Even though we're an X-Men podcast.
We're not an X-Men podcast. So, Dylan, you were well aware of all the Krakoa storylines that ran for like 5 years at Marvel. Yes. The big push to we're putting the X-Men in a new setting where they're basically in a utopia, which is not the actual utopia. They did that previously. This is a living island where they could declare themselves a sovereign nation, where they didn't have to worry about getting ill or dying, and they terraformed a whole fucking planet to also live on. And it was all sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows for the mutant population in the Krakoa era, correct?
Nothing bad ever happened.
Nothing bad ever happened.
And they all lived happily ever after.
Exactly. Until Orcus and Sentinels fucked it all up.
Wow. Sentinels will do that to you, man. They'll ruin your
life. Krakoa is gone. And now the X-Men are back in a world that hates and fears them. Probably because for about 5 years, they were kind of lording the fact that, like, hey, guess what? We don't die now. And we also have plants that can cure any illness in the world.
You can't have any.
Well, no, they're like, you can have some, but your government has to agree to sanctions that they will not attack us and stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, it was...
Do they still have those plans?
Those plants? I doubt. I don't think they do.
That's going to be difficult to negotiate
with. And the 5, which are the 5 mutants who, when they combine their powers, could resurrect people effectively. Well, at least one of them's dead for sure. We know that. So that ain't happening either.
And one of them's maybe dead?
Who's the one that might be dead?
Egg.
Oh, Egg might be dead?
I'm just making it up.
Honestly, though, if your power was just I can make egg, I feel like you don't have a high survival rate.
I am flabbergasted that they were like, we're going to keep this guy around for as long as we can. This one fucking guy, this stupid gold ball
coincidentally guy, enough,
he's gonna be sticking around forever and ever.
You know, it is really horrific when you think about, like, when they were resurrected, they were busting out of eggs.
Yeah. What's the normal
Feels weird.
Thing to do? Well, you think chickens do it all the time.
Yeah, but would you want to be birthed from an egg? I would just feel like it was kind of like, remember in the Matrix Like when you first get woken up and you're in the big like fluid sack.
Yeah. I remember being in the fluid sack, Corey.
There you go.
I remember that a lot. I'm just saying, what would you rather be, coming out of an egg or just dead forever? Think about it.
Well, anyway, so the good times did not last forever, and the Marvel world kicked off a new era of the mutants once more with From the Ashes, a series of books that came out intermittently through the following months after the Krakoa era ended. So, this was the synopsis of this event, of this launch. Over their 60-year history, the X-Men have been many things: outcasts, teachers, revolutionaries, heroes. Above all, they're a species, and the future is still theirs for the taking. Krakoa showed the world what Homo Superior is truly capable of, and now the X-Men have to fight harder than ever to keep Professor X's dream alive. The three-core series will approach the X-Men's vital mission with distinct and relevant perspectives while remaining faithful to the storytelling power of the mutant metaphor. This is only the beginning. So, From the Ashes kicked off a whole bunch of series. The first thing that came was like an online exclusive comic, X-Men From the Ashes Infinity, which I think was just detailing like how Jean Grey got the Phoenix back.
She got it through the post.
Yep, got it in the post.
Meal, as you guys would say meal.
The mail, yes.
We would say the post. I don't know why.
Well, it's kind of like we say gas and you say petrol, even though like petrol makes maybe more sense than gas, because when you think gas, you think of the element. Yeah, yes. You think of like the element of it, not necessarily the fact that it is a liquid that is going into your vehicle.
It is weird when they're like, yeah, they're just pouring gas into your car. I'm like, I don't think you can pour gas.
Yeah, it's honestly, they probably should just call it by its full thing of gasoline, but we have a really nasty habit of trying to abbreviate things.
Why not just call it Olean?
There you go.
That sounds way better. I can go put some Olean in my car, you know? It sounds great. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Get this to catch on, guys.
There you go. So that was in June of 2024. In July
did you read it?
Yes.
The online one?
No, I don't have the Marvel Infinity service.
I don't have that gubbins. But we have that website where we can read.
No, we don't have that website.
No, we don't have any websites. But if we did, you could read it there probably. Whatever you do, don't say out loud whatever the name of that website is, because we don't know what it is.
So yeah, From the Ashes appears to just be kind of bonus content kind of books. Like I'm looking at it right here of like, there's some Jean Grey and Cyclops and Xavier's storylines. Omega Red had a storyline through it. Some girl that's gold, she's there. Bird has a couple of has a big story for himself. We all love Bird.
Who's Bird?
Bird. Beak.
Beak? He's called Bird?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I just thought of him as Bird for some reason, but his name is Beak.
Wait.
Darnell Bohusk.
Yeah, but didn't he get departed at M-Day?
Well, yeah, no, but he got his powers back as a result of Krakoa shenanigans.
Is that how that works?
Well, so here's the fucked up thing, and we'll talk about that. We won't. I've been really respectful of John like reading it, so will have to tell John, hey, don't maybe listen to this episode, because I don't know how far along into the X books he's gotten, and we talked a little bit about it yesterday, and he's pretty far along, and I don't know how committed he is to reading everything, but I know he hasn't touched X-Force at all.
Okay.
And I thought that was wild because X-Force is one of the better written ones.
Yeah.
He read all of Excalibur.
He can't read though. Remember, he doesn't have any eyes.
Yeah, exactly. He puts his hand on the page and feels the little bumps from the ink.
Is that how that works?
Probably not. No. Anyway, so in July of 2024, they officially launched these books. The first 4 came out in July, and that was the X-Men Volume 7, and that is the Cyclops-led team by McKay and Stegman. There is Phoenix Volume 1, which is a first time for that character to have her own book. So that's a Volume 1. We have NYX Volume 2, and we have X-Force Volume 7. Shortly after that, in the month of August 2024, We have the Uncanny X-Men, which is the Gail Simone-led X-Men book, X Factor, and they counted this as part of it, but Storm joined the Avengers in issue 17, so they kind of rolled that into, because it did have part of the From the Ashes, is Storm becoming an Avenger.
Okay.
Your thoughts on Storm as an Avenger?
Is she still an Avenger?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, I like Storm. I guess those are my thoughts.
Okay.
I like Storm.
In September 2024, we got the Exceptional X-Men, which is the Emma Frost, Kitty Pryde book, Wolverine, and Wolverine Volume 8, by the way. That's how many volumes that has been.
Well, here's the thing. You said like X-Force is on like volume 7. Yeah. And Wolverine's on volume 8. Like, you would think that Wolverine would have way more than X-Force.
Honestly, I think it's because like the Wolverine books of the 90s didn't relaunch as often. Like, as you get like into the 2000s and 2010s is where we start seeing relaunches happen. And every time they relaunch with a new number 1, it's a new volume.
Mm-hmm.
So X-Force has relaunched considerably the last few years.
Yeah, they just can't find a good lineup that they like.
Well, and they don't want to continue the numbering because number 1s sell.
As we know.
But speaking of number 1s, yep. We certainly do. This is episode 4, volume 4. So our first limited series of the launch is Dazzler, volume 3. It's a mini. In October 2024, we get the Storm solo book, the miniseries Sentinels, and the miniseries Mystique. And then in November, we get the last of this round, essentially, which is Psylocke number 1, which is focusing on the Psylocke that's on Cyclops' team, which is the Japanese ninja Kwannon, not the British Betsy Braddock.
But is she Psylocke as well?
So, yes.
So
they are both Psylocke.
They're both called Psylocke.
Yes. Now, what's confusing to me is the Excalibur book made a big deal about how Betsy became Captain Britain because her brother Brian was no longer worthy of wielding Excalibur.
Because of all the crimes he did.
Because of the crimes. I bet it had to do with the fact that he sided with Harry in the royal feud. They were like, what? He's not for the Queen? Get rid of him. He's no longer our captain.
That would make sense, actually. Because if they love the Queen, even though she's dead, they still love her.
Yeah, they love her more than Charles, who might be dead soon. Who knows?
Look, he doesn't look healthy.
That's true.
You know? He's got a weird face. That's just, he can't do anything about that. He just has a weird face.
Well, I mean, it's just the inbreeding. I mean, that's what happens. Those royal lines, they got to stay pure.
They just love their own cousins. That's what they like, and they know what they like.
It's true.
They like that. They like stealing stuff from other countries and then putting it in their house and go, look what we got. But when I do it, it's a crime.
It's true. So, Dylan, of these books that we have mentioned, based off of title alone, are there any that sounds interesting to you that you would read?
I want to know what the Sentinel wants about.
That's a good question. So I remember when they announced Sentinel and thinking like, okay, that's certainly a choice. So Sentinels, I'll read you the solicitation for it.
It's about Sentinels. Well, thanks.
Pretty much, honestly. Who are the new Sentinels? The original Sentinel program was human supremacy and fear coded into circuitry, but now their legacy falls into the hands of mutant kind. Powered by cutting-edge nanotech, this new generation of Sentinels protects a fragile peace between mutants and humans. But when being a Sentinel is your job, your life, is it possible to stay human?
So the Sentinels are being piloted by people?
Yeah, they are. These are characters. Their names are. They're all brand new characters. Lockstep, Voivod, Sawtooth, Shellback, and Drumfire. Those are the Sentinels.
Drumfire?
Drumfire.
Sounds pretty fucking scary. Mm-hmm. I want to stay away from that guy. Stay away from Drumfire. You don't want to be. You don't know if you're playing with your band and you look around, the drum kit's on fire.
That's like what the Butthole Surfers used to do. They'd cover a symbol in gasoline and light it on fire and hit it, and it'd like shoot flame balls up in the air.
Yeah.
Do you like the Butthole Surfers?
Oh, they're right.
I like them.
Good.
Yeah. Well, that was our Butthole Surfer podcast.
Did not last as long as we thought it would.
No, not as much you could really say without like really going into the details. We like to keep it light and breezy.
That's what we're well known for.
That's exactly what we're known for.
Not going into details. So anyway, tell me some more details about the X-Men comics.
Sure. So, like I said, a lot of these are miniseries that ended shortly. I know they've also launched a couple more books recently. Like Magic has her own title right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not considered part of the From the Ashes. I think the From the Ashes was just kind of this initial launch. But really, the three main books, or the three heavy hitters, the main thing that synopsis that I read at the beginning is X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, and Exceptional X-Men. Each of them are supposed to embody an element of what made the X-Men the X-Men. The regular X-Men title is like a strike force team. They go on missions. The Uncanny X-Men team is sort of more of that slice of life, living in the Xavier Institute kind of thing, like focused on the relationships. And then the Exceptional X-Men is all about teaching the new generation of mutants. So the student teacher aspect of it. So those are the main books that kind of like encapsulated it, and then they just threw in some other books because, can't help ourselves. So the reason that I thought we would talk today is the solicitations for May of 2025 have been making the rounds. And in it, we have our first wave of ongoing canceled From the Ashes X books.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the books that did not do well and will not make it past, I think, issue 10. All of them are going to be ended on.
That's not good.
Yeah. So I thought we'd break down, one at a time, read the main solicitation, go over the characters, and kind of see if we could figure out why people just didn't really want to read it.
They didn't want to read it because in one of the issues, Quentin Quire tries to kill Colossus by putting a bag over his head, choking him to death. And then pours bleach down his throat. People just weren't into that. They're like, this isn't believable.
It works. So Colossus always seems to be wearing his outfit, which is the little red trunks all the time. Everyone's like, everybody else is wearing regular clothes and he's not. So it's really awkward. Like, why is he not dressed?
Yeah, well, he's made out of metal.
Yeah, but only when he wants to be.
Wow.
So anyway, Dylan, we have NYX, which had 2 volumes. We have X Factor with 5 volumes and X Force with 7. So which of these would you like to dive into first?
Let's start with what was the first one?
NYX.
See that one.
Okay. So NYX first, like I said, that's going to be ending on issue 10 in May, and here is the synopsis for the series. This is NYX. This isn't a book about X-Men. This is a book about mutants living past the end of their world and into a new beginning. This is Miss Marvel embracing her mutant life in the neon streets of the Lower East Side. This is Anole trying to keep his head above water. This is Wolverine in the shadows of Bushwick protecting her own. This is Prodigy, not the Prodigy. That'd have been fucking wild. This is Prodigy writing history as it happens, and Sophie Cuckoo finding her own way. The news reports are bleak. The streets feel dangerous. There's something lurking underground. Evil coming from every direction, but they're determined to make it. This is mutant community. This is mutant pride. This is NYX.
You delivered that very, very well.
Thank you.
I really bought it. But they should have got you to read that advert, because then everybody would have been like, dude, this sounds awesome.
Really? Well, I'm glad that you thought that it was awesome, because it sounds like readers didn't care for it too much if it's ending on issue 10.
What was the thing that was underground?
The thing that was underground, I believe, if memory serves, like the big antagonist in the first few issues, I think it just now got resolved, is
Big Snake.
Well, no, it's there's a new mutant terrorist called the Krakoan.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, the Krakoan. Yeah. And with the reveal that he was a former student of Xavier's, former student of Emma Frost named Hellion.
Mm-hmm.
who had gone bad and decided that, you know,
the guy called Hellion went bad. Get out of time.
yes,
He
guy
seemed
named
like such a
Hellion went
nice
bad.
boy. When I saw him at church, he seemed like such a nice boy.
So Hellion, his powers are telekinesis, and he was in like the new X-Men and Young X-Men books in the 2000s, and like his character trait was pretty much that. Like he's an arrogant kid that was of the firm belief that because he's a mutant, he should be superior to everyone. So he has an ego, he's got an attitude, and he took the name Hellion because he was originally assigned to be tutored by one of the regular X-Men professors, I think maybe Rogue, and he turned it down and transferred to Emma Frost's group instead because Emma kind of enjoyed the students that were a little rougher around the edges. So he took the name Hellion as a kind of tribute to her letting him join.
Aw. He had a crush on her.
Yeah. So the main characters of this book are Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, who I mentioned earlier in a group chat that we're in that Miss Marvel is kind of this character that Marvel will not give up on.
Yeah, they're really high on her. They really want to push her.
They really want her to get over.
Good. God bless them. People just don't seem to bite. You know.
So real quick, Miss Marvel was introduced in the storyline where the Inhumans unleashed the Terrigen Mists, and it activated the Inhuman gene in several regular everyday humans. And Kamala Khan was one of those people who had an Inhuman gene in her, and she got her powers to stretch and change the shape of her body and size and what have you, kind of like a teenage Mr. Fantastic. And she took the name Miss Marvel because she was a Miss Marvel fangirl. And through several books, whether it was her own solo or Champions, she came to be a beloved and respected character. She ended up getting killed in the Spider-Man comic, of all things. And they were able to resurrect her in Krakoa because turns out she's not been an Inhuman this entire time. She's actually been a mutant. Now, I need someone to make sense of that to me because the big problem with the Inhumans versus X-Men storyline was that the Terrigen Mists killed mutants. Like that was a big part of that.
Yeah.
Like that's how Cyclops was killed. So yeah, somehow like the Terrigen Mists activated her Inhuman gene but didn't kill her despite the fact she's a mutant. I don't know. But anyway, she got put into the X-Men book for a while that Jerry Duggan, I think, was writing towards the end of the Krakoa era. And NYX, I mean, she is featured front and center of the comic. So she is the main character for all intents and purposes. The other characters are Sophie Cuckoo from the Stuff for Cuckoos, Anole, who is one of the new X-Men, the Laura Kinney X-23 Wolverine, Prodigy, who is also of the new X-Men, and there you go.
It's not really like the most exciting of lineups, is it? You don't really see all those guys and go, God dang, Anole's in this one. The guy gotta get in here, you know. Like, if they're like your lead guys, you're not. Like, a lot of them aren't really like. Like obviously they're pushing Miss Marvel and Wolverine is Wolverine. The name alone gets her over, but the rest of them are kind of like, is that gonna get people interested? You know.
Well, are you familiar with the first NYX comic?
Not really.
Okay, so that was 2003. So it's been like 20 years since the original NYX. And that was a miniseries that was about homeless teenage mutant characters. They were Kaiden, who had the ability to freeze time, Tatiana, who could shapeshift, Bobby who body shifted, his little brother named Lil Bro, who I don't think they revealed what his powers were until later on, X-23, that was one of her first early appearances, and then this other character who was just a human named Cameron. So it was it had a big cult following. A lot of people really love teenage characters, like especially like teenage mutant characters, especially like in the online spaces. Mm-hmm. So I could see them thinking like, well, let's recapture this magic by, putting these same kind of characters in the book. Because this will be a weird thing to say, but we'll say it. A lot of these characters are also of also gay or bisexual or members of the LGBT community, and that there's a very large fan base for people who are super supportive of those characters. So like a Noel and Prodigy definitely are. I don't know if Sophie or Laura Kinney or Kamala Khan are, though.
No, I hadn't heard that.
Okay. So I don't know. You have liked the Stepfords, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the villains of this series call themselves the Quiet Council of Krakoa, and it's Empath, who's an OG Hellion. The Krakoan, who we mentioned, is Hellion. And also the other Stepford Cuckoos. Celeste, Mindy, Phoebe, and Esme.
Oh, right. They're all back again now. I forgot.
Yep. All of them are back again. Krakoa. Yep. So those are the villains of the run. So, like I said, this was sort of like the slice of life kind of teenage characters, which those books always are very popular online, but I have to admit, like, as an adult man, I don't know if I could write a book like that. Have you ever read like the young, like, books focused on like the younger characters?
I don't think so.
So like you've never read like Young Avengers or like books about the sidekicks or anything?
No. Sidekicks? Why are you reading the books about the sidekicks when I could be reading the main event? You know what I mean?
There you go.
Who wants to read a book about fucking sidekicks or whatever? Well, I mean, you do. You like Robin. Yeah. He's a sidekick.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, Nightwing isn't, but yeah, used to be.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking. Well, let's not get into that. That's a whole other.
Yeah, it's a whole other kettle of fish.
A lot of Robins. I'm not getting into
that. So anyway, so this book, obviously, like I said, did not go well. I know that it was revealed very recently that Hellion was simply in over his head, and he wasn't actually killing people, and because he and X-23 had a romance from her previous solo series, which I don't know if you've ever read that one, but I think you might like it because Gambit plays a really big part in it. So it's a Laura Kinney solo book, and I think it takes place concurrently as the X-Force run where it was the Kill Squad, and Gambit is sort of acting as like a big brother to her because it's like Wolverine had resigned himself to the idea of like, she's a clone of me, she's exactly like me, she doesn't need a mentor, she needs stuff to kill. And Gambit's like, that's a teenage girl. She needs somebody to look out for her. So yeah, that was NYX. Based off of the synopsis and some of the characters involved, like, why do you think this book failed?
Well, because guys, like, nobody cares. You know what I mean? Like I said, I don't think a lot of those characters are like super interesting to lead a book. They're great support guys, but like if that's your X-Men team, wouldn't you look at an X-Men team like that and be like a little underwhelmed? You know,
it's a bit.
Yeah, I think just honestly, I think that's what it is. People just, it feels like the kind of thing where like if they had one good story to tell, they could make that into like a mini series and then have that team pop up from time to time or whatever. But to try and make that like a long running series with I don't really I don't buy that, and obviously nobody else did.
Yeah. Well, like I told you, like in our separate chat, it's they are very determined on making Miss Marvel a thing, and it's like it's another series that chooses and it gets canceled early.
Yeah, I mean, again, to go to something that we had talked about off mic, as that happens a lot, wouldn't you look at those signs and think maybe we need to change something, or would you just be pig-headed and go, nope, everybody else is wrong. We're going to keep doing what we keep doing.
Going to keep on doing it.
And it's going to be great, I don't know. I don't care about Miss Marvel. I have no opinion one way or the other. She seems like a nice character, but if people aren't digging her, they're not digging her. And they've canceled like more popular characters than that.
They really have. So, well, would you like to jump over into X Factor or X Force?
Okay, X Factor, is that... We're familiar with X Factor.
Yes.
The prior...
the prior versions of X Factor. This is the 5th incarnation of X Factor. X Factor Volume 1 was the original 5 X-Men posing as mutant hunters while secretly like rescuing, saving mutants. Volume 2 is the Peter David run.
Yep.
Volume 3 was the Peter David run starting again with Madrox as the main character as opposed to Havoc.
Yep.
Volume 4... No, actually, no. That's still continued Volume 2. Volume 3 is... There was this like run where X Factor was owned by this corporation and like Gambit and Quicksilver were members. It didn't last very long.
It's a shame.
Volume 4 was in the Krakoa era where they were like detectives, but like one of the main characters was Eye Boy, who his gimmick is he's covered in eyeballs.
Yeah, great.
And
gimmick.
then this is Volume 5. So it's kind of a mesh, you could say, of it in a weird way.
Yeah, but you mean like the detective thing?
Well, I mean the characters for sure.
Okay.
So, well, here's the synopsis. Yeah. Fame, fortune, mutants. From the ashes of Krakoa, a new mutant arms race sweeps the globe. International governments are building their own mutant armies, but only America's X Factor has the most powerful, the most patriotic, the most marketable mutant heroes to stem the tide and make the world safe for democracy. Join them as they go from one death-defying mission to another. Who will die? Who will fall in love? Who will be the first to sell out?
Who did die?
Jobbers.
Who did sell out?
I mean, Fire Fist died. I don't know how you feel about Fire Fist.
I feel like this is the first time I've ever heard of this character.
He was in Volume 1.
What does Fire Fist do?
Well, that seems apparent, huh?
It's that's really what he does. He's good.
Pretty much.
Well, it's hard to come up with new characters, isn't it?
Yep.
Like, I don't know. This one's got Fire Fists. Okay, what do we call them? I don't know. Fire Fist. Great. Draw that.
So, fire generation, fire manipulation, heat generation, and fire and heat immunity are his powers.
You would have to be immune to fire if your hand is on fire.
Yeah, you would hope. Now, I talked about this before, but one of the best X Factor stories was in their private detective era, where a woman was worried that her husband was like having an affair, and then she found out that he was having like a telepathic affair. While he was sleeping at night, his subconscious was going and like having a psychic thing. And when she found out, she got so angry, her power, she lost control of her powers, which she burst into flames like the Human Torch, but did not have the fire immunity like the Human Torch.
Classic bit.
Classic. Feral was also in issue 1, and she died.
Okay.
And those are your 2 deaths.
Great, heavy hitters.
Yeah. Real
so would you like to know right there? You know what I mean?
Yep. So basically, this X Factor run was treated like the Suicide Squad, where the United States government was like, we're going to have a mutant team, and we're going to just throw them at shit. And if they live, they live, and if they don't, they don't. So, like, the main characters of this book, and this is what I told John, like, I'm going to get through just some of their powers, and then Dylan, or some of these characters, and Dylan's just going to roll his eyes and be done with it. So, our main characters, by the way, there's another character who dies. His name is Cameo. He died.
Cameo?
Yep. Cameo died. I know you're torn up about this.
What does he do? Does he also Fire Fists?
Yeah, he can shapeshift.
Oh.
So here's the characters of X Factor. Angel. Yep. Yeah. Yep, lost you.
Uh-oh.
A new character named Zyber.
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 What does that person do?
Well, I haven't even gotten to the best one yet, but we'll take a quick little foray into Zyber.
I think we should.
All right, Zyber. Real name is, he has electrokinesis.
Okay.
Yep. So Angel, Zyber, Havoc, Frenzy, Cecilia Reyes.
Okay.
Who is, yeah, she doesn't really have a superhero name, but she can, she's super tough. She has a bio field that like acts like a force field around her.
Yeah, some garbage like that, whatever.
Yeah, sure. Pyro is a member.
Fire Fist.
Yep, exactly. He replaced Fire Fist.
They needed a fire guy on their team.
They did. They were like, ah, damn, we lost Fire Fist.
What are we gonna do?
And Granny Smite.
Yeah, you left that one last on purpose.
Granny Smite had a house with her husband Freddy when her mutant ability first blossomed. The house burned down, killing Freddy. 6 months later, she brought her son and his family to Florida, and they were killed in a plane crash, leaving her to discover her mutant ability on her own. She is immortal. That is her power. She's 87 years old, and she has the power to not die.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, so that's your X-Force or your X-Factor team. I know that Forget Me Not showed up in a recent but recent issue as well.
Really?
Huh. Yes. Yeah, it was he played a big part in it with his ability for people to forget that he's there.
Again, the real heavy hitters coming out for this show.
Yeah. So your heavy hitters on this team, for all intents and purposes, are Angel and Havoc. Angel, who we have said is of the 5 original X-Men, probably the weakest until the Archangel power-up.
Yeah.
And it's specific. He is Angel in this. He is not Archangel. And also Havoc, who is the weaker of the Summers brothers.
Yes. True.
So, yeah. Dylan, why do you think X-Factor failed?
I mean, pretty much the same reasons that the last one did, right? Nobody gives a fuck about any of those characters. Angel, we talked about how Angel's not an interesting character. I don't think you can have a interesting X-Men team led by Angel and Havoc. Like, I don't think anybody looked at that and goes, "Well, that's gonna be a classic," And then you were running off some of those names. You're like, "Who fucking? What is this?" Why would you be interested in any of this?
I'll be honest with you, I'm really tired of Suicide Squad knockoffs.
Yeah.
That's what this feels like. It feels like a Suicide Squad knockoff. And
too many of those.
Way too many of those. So yeah, that's why X Factor went the way of the buffalo that it did. Now, here's the one that I thought was the fucking shadiest of them. X-Force. This is the 7th volume of X-Force. X-Force is the book that gets relaunched the most. So here's the synopsis for X-Force. A new path forged. The world is fractured. Forge uses his power of invention to devise the only fix. An all-new, all-different X-Force. Forge leads a custom-made, hand-picked team of mutants. Rachel Summers, Betsy Braddock, Sage, Surge, and introducing Tank. In off-the-books mission so dire, so integral to the fate of the Marvel Universe, there's no time to stop for permission. As Forge detects increasing threats across the planet, he will recruit a specialist for each target. First up, that regenerating degenerate, Deadpool. Be here for an X-Force like you've never seen them before. Stick around to see who joins, who lives, who dies, and uncover the mystery of Forge's discovery.
Okay, well, who dies?
It's not in this issue. It happens later on, but it's Surge. They kill the young teenage girl.
Wow. We've all been there.
Yep. So yeah, there you go. So I thought this was dubious because it's issue 1 of X-Force, front and center Deadpool.
Oh, you think that's
front and center Deadpool, and he's only in the first story, and that's it.
Yeah, well, he's a busy man. He's everywhere. He doesn't have time to like. What was this X-Force? Because he was in X-Force before.
He was, yeah. Officially he was in.
Yeah, he was
some of the Kill Squad versions. Yeah. The original X-Force. No, he was an enemy of it.
Yes.
Yeah, the volume 1 that spun out of New Mutants.
Yeah, I think like volume 4, 3 or 4 or something. He was definitely in that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's
decide he didn't want to do it anymore. He's like, nah, I'm not.
I'm good.
Deadpool
doesn't need this money anymore. He's doing well enough on his own.
Yeah, what does he do? Like, does he make? Because whenever he was a mercenary, he made money because he was a mercenary. He doesn't do that anymore.
So we can talk about it in a bit, but there's another miniseries that launched very recently called Weapon X-Men. And in that book, the very last reveal of the first issue was that Deadpool was on the team as a double agent, and he had been tasked with bringing Wolverine to Baron von Stucker for pay. So he is in his mercenary gig still.
Good, because I feel like a lot, sometimes people forget that that's what he does.
Well, I mean, the Merc with the mouth, right?
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like,
it's a shame people forget his fucking nickname.
people will say that, but then you're like, well, half the time you see him, he's not really doing like mercenary stuff. He's just like making pancakes or whatever.
Yeah, making bacon pancakes. Get some bacon and you put it in a pancake.
I'm familiar with bacon pancakes and how to make them.
That's good. I'm glad you are. So yeah, this was a book that very Forge heavy. It kind of played to this idea that the rest of the team wasn't really sure what was going on, and only Forge really knew the answers, and he wasn't sharing it because it was way too much or what have you. And yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
That's X-Force for you. And I think so. Why do you think X-Force also failed?
Not enough Deadpool.
Well, yeah, I would say so. This lineup is real weak.
It's not great.
Yeah.
I think maybe like there's some heavy hitters there. I like Forge as a character. I think he's kind of like underutilized a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I think like there's stuff you could do, especially like nowadays in the world we live in. It's so like, industrial and like has a lot of like inventions and machines and stuff that we use in our day-to-day lives. A guy like Forge would be perfect for that. You can tell stories there. I don't think they are telling those stories, maybe because they haven't thought of them, and that's why Marvel needs to talk to us again. And they're like, guys, you've been writing this Forge thing for ages. We haven't seen any of the Forge stories. Can we see what you've been writing? Oh, you've been doing Baby Juggernaut again. Well, you have to stop doing that.
Baby Juggernaut is in X-Force. They use him as a weapon because he's indestructible and unstoppable. So they do like the speedball special, but they use Baby Juggernaut like a shot put.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, but how do you lift him?
I mean, you have to have a superpowered person. I mean, every now and then Colossus was able to pick up Juggernaut,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know. Don't think I don't know that. I'm totally.
I'm just verifying for you. Just verifying.
Okay.
That's good.
Oh, who are the other ones?
So, okay, the lineup of X-Force: Forge, Sage, Captain Britain, or Psylocke, Rachel Summers, Surge, and this new character named Tank.
Rachel Summers is a pretty. You could do something with her. Betsy Braddock. Siege, I don't know about.
So anyway, yeah, that's the lineup to X-Force. Again, it's really weak on paper. You have Rachel Summers, who is a kind of a weak version of Jean Grey. You've got the Betsy Braddock Psylocke, who is not nearly as cool as the Quanon Psylocke.
But she's Captain Britain, so that's cool.
Yeah, so everybody loves Captain Britain.
Nobody in Britain loves Captain Britain.
Yeah, I know. I've read the history of like how those comics failed. They're like, we'll make a Captain Britain, and that'll get over huge in the UK, and nobody cared.
Couldn't give a fuck, mate. Couldn't care.
Sage and Forge, in my opinion, are too similar for my own liking.
I think so.
I just felt like they stepped all over each other. Like Sage was really good in the last volume of X-Force that Ben Percy was writing, because she was kind of like that control person that was like, I think what they were wanting to do is a big part of the tension at X-Force was she always kind of had a feeling something was going on with Beast when Beast was in his heel days. I think they wanted to recreate that kind of tension between her and Forge in this book.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's X-Force for you.
That's it.
Yep. So the three things these books have in common is that they are very weak on paper.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. They're very weak on paper. The two heavy hitter books are, of course, the X-Men book and the Uncanny X-Men book. I've heard nice things about Exceptional X-Men, but I don't think people are holding them in that same esteem. Mm-hmm. And I sent you guys like a meme somebody had made about Gail Simone's Uncanny X-Men and some criticism that people are having towards it.
Yes.
So, the teams for X-Men and Uncanny X-Men, we've talked about it before, but in X-Men, it's Cyclops, Quentin Quire, Psylocke, Magic, Beast, and Juggernaut, as well as Magneto and Ivy. So these are all characters that have done shady shit in the past. Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Uncanny X-Men is Rogue, Gambit, Wolverine, Nightcrawler, and Jubilee, which everybody was excited for because that feels like a classic X-Men.
Classic stuff.
But most of the book so far has been focusing on these 4 new student characters that have been created called the Outliers, and their names are Calliope, Ransom, Jitter, and Death Dream.
It's hard coming up with new characters.
It's true. Well, that's your girl Gail.
Listen, I haven't read it, so I'm not gonna cast aspersions.
Who are the Outliers? But yeah, they're just these teenage characters, and it's been fine. It's been fine.
Come on,
Calico, not Calliope. Calico.
Calm down there with that enthusiasm.
Do you want to know what their powers are?
One of them's got a fire fist.
Close.
One of them's an old lady.
Close. All right, so
it's really hitting into me now that they really did a comic where like one of the characters was just an old lady. I'm like, that's it.
Granny Smite.
Yeah, that's
an old lady with the ability to not die.
Right. So her thing is she just gets older. Like, it's not a great power to have, is it?
Yeah. So
old lady gets older.
So here are the Outliers, which is the name of this group of young characters. The first is Ransom. Ransom these are his powers. He has a black hole instead of a heart.
Which doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yep. He has superhuman strength though, because I guess whenever he kind of like Bishop, whenever he gets hit, he can convert that energy back out. So I don't know why they felt they needed to do that instead of just say like, oh, his powers like Bishop, but they were like, no, he has a black hole for a heart.
Because that's what black holes do.
Yeah, notorious for sucking up something but then putting it back out.
Yeah, so that's fine, you know.
So Death Dream, his name is Hotaro. He is from Kyoto, Japan. He died 4 times when he was born, so that's fun. He has
I don't think he did die 4 times when he was born, because he was either he's dead or he's born. You know what I mean? Like, so
Death Dream, he has a death state where he can put himself in a state that is neither life nor death. While he is in his undead state, he has necromancy powers, and he can summon spirits that he can possess and fly, and he can resurrect himself from the dead. He also has an accelerated healing factor. So that's Death Dream. He's kind of spooky, obviously. And he says goofy shit, like edgelord kind of stuff. Like, oh, I think of autopsies, kind of weird shit. Then there's Jitter. Jitter has hyper focus. So she can acquire any skill that she wants, but only for 1 minute. So for 1 minute, she can be amazing at everything, anything she wants. So like in a recent issue, Death Dream was brutally attacked by these sentinels that were like dogs. Yeah, dog sentinels. You keep saying this. This is your girl Gail. This is your girl Gail.
I haven't read it, so I can't cast any aspersions on it.
Your face is doing a lot of it, though.
Well, if you listen to this on Spotify, then
they won't hear it.
No issue.
They'll just hear the occasional scoff.
It'll come out through the microphone.
You'll just hear
At least she didn't invent an old lady.
That's true. So anyway, Jitter, for 1 minute, made herself like an expert nurse and was able to stabilize Death Dream's wounds.
Okay, like you can see how that like
It's
a
got
very
some
comic
functionality
thing. Yeah, like you can gimmick that to tell stories with. Like that's a good in terms of like X-Men, the way that they run. You can use that. You can make that into a character. You know.
Yes.
I don't hate that.
So, all right, then there's Calico.
He's a
Calico
cat.
She has psychokinesis, which allows her to form a telepathic bond with her horse Ember. So she
The horse.
Yep. So she can create psychic constructs, basically creating like armor and weaponry for herself and her horse.
Why? What?
And then Ember, because of Calico's powers and how they're linked together, Ember can shapeshift and fly.
Shapeshift?
Yeah.
Why would the horse shapeshift? Into what?
Because Calico wants him to.
A gun? Like what else? It's already a horse.
Other flying like a Pegasus.
Horse with wings. That's still a horse. That's still a horse.
Listen, I didn't write down what the power sets were. I'm just reading them.
You know what I mean? Oh, you shapeshift into a horse or a winged horse or a unicorn. Oh, the possibilities are endless.
Yep.
A smaller horse, you know.
Again, you're bad-mouthing your girl Gale.
No. I haven't read it, so I can't cast aspersions on it. But I am allowed to gently mock it. I think that's fair.
Can I tell you that of these new characters, Calico is probably the most interesting? Like, she feels like we don't know really anything about Jitter. Ransom is just like standard tough street kid from New York kind of character. Death Dream is like a weird, edgy character he seems like he's Eeyore at the same time. Like he's Eeyore if Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh also talked about like death and dying and decay.
He does.
Like a goth Eeyore.
Yeah, he does. He talks about that.
Yeah, he's a depressed guy. Mm-hmm. And Calico she grew up a rich kid, but her mom sheltered her and made her convinced that mutants were actually filthy devils. So she refuses to acknowledge the fact that she's a mutant for a while, and like there's a level of self-hatred there. And I went, oh, that's interesting. And then it got resolved in like 3 issues. And I went, oh, way to rush through that. You could have stretched that for a while. Like, is an interesting character dynamic with the other mutants.
Yeah, but think of all the horse-based stories they can tell now that they've got that out of the way.
Yeah.
So many.
All it took was one conversation with Gambit, and that girl was like, you know what? Maybe being a mutant isn't so bad.
See, Gambit is really good to talk to if you're a young girl. That's probably bad when you think about it. Like, Gambit's hanging out with the young kids a lot. Like, is he all right? He's fine. He's just Gambit, you know.
So yeah, that's the criticism I've been seeing towards Uncanny X-Men has been that, you know, people are wanting the book to focus on the X-Men characters and not these teenagers.
Okay, but counterpoint, doesn't it make sense? And this is what they've done with other, like, you know, when they introduce new X-Men or new characters of X-Men into the fold, doesn't it make sense to use the veteran guys to put over the new kids that you want to establish wrestling wise? Sure. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not opposed to that. Obviously, people want to hear about Gambit and Rogue and them being cool and stuff, but they're always gonna be there. They're always gonna have something to do. You know, even after this book, Gambit and Rogue and Wolverine and whatever, they'll be fine. They'll be okay. If you're introducing new characters, absolutely use those older characters to put some shine on the new guys. And that's the thing. I feel like this happens a lot with whenever they introduce new X-Men. A lot of them are always like really hit or miss. You're like, some of these aren't going to stick around because they're just not interesting or they're not good. So, you know, you need to like put as much shine on them as you can while you still can, to see if other writers will be interested in them in the future. I don't think that that's a bad thing. But I think that the part of the good thing about that was that she got the right X-Men for her team. Do you know what I mean? We're not talking about Angel.
Sure.
Or fucking old lady. You
yeah,
know, like,
I mean, she did really well in that regard.
Yeah. And I think that because of the criticism of the last 3 books we talked about was nobody cares about them. I know even if a lot of the focus is on the new kids, people still care about Rogue and Gambit and Wolverine. They're still gonna buy that book because they still want to see, and they're still gonna do stuff in the book. It's still
they're just not the main focus. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I will say that that is a great idea in theory, except that book already exists and marketed as such, which is Exceptional X-Men, which is the Emma Frost Kitty Pryde book that Iceman's also a part of. Because that book is Kitty Pryde goes to Chicago, fed up of all the mutant stuff, wanting to start her own life. Emma Frost shows up and goes, nah, you got to be a mentor to these kids. So they introduce 3 young mutant characters in that book who their powers seem to be a little more
horse-based.
Not horse-based. So in that book, you have what are their names? Melee.
Oh.
So Melee is a young mutant character who can make herself intangible and make herself invisible. So that mentorship with Kitty Pryde obviously makes sense there. Someone else who's dealing with the same problem.
Yep.
There is also Bronze, and Bronze is a young girl who can turn her skin into a bronze-like metal that's almost as strong as adamantium, and her braids are like extending retractable cables like Omega Red. So she can like turn herself into like Colossus, like a bronze Colossus, with tendrils, essentially.
Okay.
And then there's Axo, and Axo's powers is he can make people confess their biggest secrets and vulnerabilities and can read their moods. So he's like a high-level empath, and his skin changes colors, like he's a big mood ring, essentially. So you have 3 new characters there with 3 very unique, different visual power sets.
Yeah.
To the outliers that are a little more like power. I'm telepathically bonded with my horse, and I have a black hole for a heart, whatever that means. So it's like you already have one book that the main focus is like mentoring these kids and getting them up and running. It feels weird to also be doing that with the other Uncanny X-Men book too.
Yeah, okay. I can see that. But isn't it a good thing to try to make some new faces, to make something different, to put like a horse in the and people have been saying for years, if
we
like,
need a horse.
What Dax already fucking needs
horse.
A horse that wears body armor that's invisible. Yep, I'm in. And finally, Gail Simone listened to us when we were begging for this horse, and then she gave us what we all wanted. So and now, if you're changing your tune and you don't want it, you're gonna have to start taking it up with me and Gail Simone. And we'll fight you. She's scrappy, man. She killed a guy. I saw it. It happened.
So, yeah, I guess that's like I said.
She never hears this.
I don't know. She might be amused by that.
But she's like,
she might be.
How did he know? Was he there?
How did he know? I will say that, like I said, that's the big premise behind it, but the attitudes are a little different. Like, Rogue definitely has like a mama bear kind of personality about these kids, and like Jubilee is like also really hardcore into taking care of them too. Do you remember Jubilee had a baby?
No.
Okay.
What's the baby called?
It was. Well, okay, so basically Jubilee found a baby and started taking care of it.
I would say Jubilee having a baby and Jubilee finding a baby are
very different.
Very, very
so yeah
different. I could find a baby.
Yeah.
Anybody can find a baby.
We know somebody who found a baby, we think.
If you go to the hospital, there's fucking loads of them fresh out of the incubator. You know what I mean? Like, there's loads of babies. You just gotta know where to look for them.
So the baby's name is Shogo, and yeah, basically there was a meteor that killed this baby's family, and Jubilee just took the baby in and started being a mom. And I think she was still technically a vampire when that was happening.
Oh boy.
Vampire mom. So anyway, in Krakoa, she was part of the Excalibur team that went into Otherworld. And whenever they went into Otherworld, their appearances changed. And so when the baby went to Otherworld, it became a dragon. And the baby loved being a dragon to the point that Jubilee decided to let the baby stay in Otherworld so it could live out its life as a dragon.
Well, that is a great way to get rid of that dangling plot point in it. Oh, I know, baby loves being a dragon, so bye. You know.
Yep.
I don't.
Yep. We gotta get.
Either of us could have came up with that.
It's a lot. That's for sure. How do we get rid of this baby? Find it a loving home? No, we'll just let it be a dragon.
No, people are gonna get upset by that. Oh, we'll just send it to a different world and it becomes a dragon. All right.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me. What else would we do with it? You know, that's. I love the idea of somebody like the editors or the higher ups are like, dude, Jubilee needs to have a baby. And then he's like, okay, I'll write this. And they're like, all right, now Jubilee needs to not have the baby. And he's like, all right, well, what about this?
I like to imagine like they're in like a boardroom somewhere. They've been there for hours. Like, you know, everybody's ties are loosened. Their shirt sleeves are rolled up. They're like sweating profusely. There's like one light that's like one bulb swinging from the ceiling on an exposed wire. And they're just in front of a marker board going like, gotta get rid of this baby. I've not seen my wife and kid in 3 days. We're starting to wonder where I am. We gotta find a way to get rid of this baby.
We gotta fucking do something with this baby, dude. We've been here. Listen, nobody leaves until this baby turns into situated. This baby has to turn into something. And they're like,
There's this one guy in the back that's like, God damn it, just make it a dragon. Brilliant.
You're hired. Also, how'd you get in here? And then they look over and he was never there.
He was never there at all. It was the ghost of Jack Kirby. That's what he would have wanted.
And then it turns out he was a horse. And like, that gives me an idea, you know.
Jack Kirby was a horse this whole time.
Jack Kirby was a horse. Write that one down. That's a good one.
So anyway, yeah, that's like I said, that's the Uncanny X-Men. There are people who are like super into it. Gambit's great at being a big brother figure. Wolverine's always adopting some child. Rogue's playing.
What is going on with children over there? Like, what's happening to the X-Men?
This time, though, it's Wolverine's taking interest in Ransom and not like the 14-year-old girl that he's going to teach karate for some reason, too.
We know what the reason is.
Yeah.
We know what the reason.
Yeah. So yeah, no. So like everybody that's on there are like super into being a mentor, but I think a lot of people were hoping this was going to be a more traditional like X book in a different way. Because you know, like you said, the other book is the Cyclops team, and they're like on missions and strike forces and like making shit happen. And then the other, like, there was a plot point where like the new kids went to a shopping mall, and they got attacked by sentinels that are dogs.
Okay, dog sentinels.
The Nightcrawler painted a house with some young girl, and then a woman showed up to give him German baked goods because he saved their daughter.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah.
See, this is nice.
Gambit and Rogue are on a date night.
Yeah.
Wolverine, I think, is.
It doesn't sound bad. What's wrong with people?
No.
Sounds like a delightful time.
Like I said, there's just a lot of people. I feel like they thought it was going to be a book centered on these other characters and not the teenage characters they were introducing, and they're not happy about it.
Well, and I guess a lot of people can just shut the fuck up.
There you go. That's how we deal with criticism around these parts.
What do you think of that, you pricks? Yeah.
I'll fucking fight you.
Yeah, me and Gil Simone will fuck you up, and she killed a guy. I saw it.
Okay. So yeah, like you said, that's kind of what's going on in the X books. There's a lot of solo books right now. Storm has a solo. Psylocke has a solo. Jean Grey has a solo. Yes.
Which Psylocke?
Quanon.
Good Psylocke.
Yeah, the one that's the most aesthetically pleasing because she's a fucking ninja and it's badass.
Hot Psylocke.
Hot Psylocke, we'll call
Please, yeah, please, to give her birth name.
Hot Psylocke.
Hot Psylocke.
So, which it begs the question. I think we talked about it. Like when Psylocke came back, like when they separated their bodies back to what they were, like 30 years after they did it.
Yeah.
Did they ever I feel like they've had to at least had a couple of awkward conversations about it.
Yeah.
Like, is it weird for like Angel to be like, hey, remember when we were like in a long relationship for a very wild time and you looked like her, but she had your brain? That's got to be weird.
And they're like, nah, it's not weird at all.
Yeah. What are you talking about?
What part of that do you think is weird? He's like, oh, I guess when you put it that way, it's a totally normal thing for people to go through.
Yeah.
We've all been out with somebody like that, haven't we? Where it turns out their brain was actually in the different person's body, and then they get their brain switched back, and then you see them again, and you're like, it's awkward for me, but the women don't seem to find it awkward at all. Because we're just not used to that. We're just not used to that.
No. I mean, like you said, that date with Shibata I thought it was going pretty well, but they took his brain out and put it back in, and we just not been able to connect sense.
On the date. Which was just rude.
It was, it was really. Like,
and there's a doctor sitting behind you, like scooping his brain out with an ice cream scoop. You're like, I don't think that's. I'm trying to watch the film, and you don't even.
And got some of that. He took it and got some of the extra popcorn butter on it, and then put it back in.
We don't do that over here.
Oh, you don't? That's probably for the best. That didn't seem like it's actually butter, does it? I feel like butter should be that color.
It's such a weird. Like I've only seen that because you see it in like
movies,
Simpsons, or like pop culture, or whatever. Like they get the popcorn, they squish the thing, the butter comes out. Like that's not real. Because over here they go, you want popcorn, and you go, yeah, and they go, you want sweet or salted, and you go whichever, and they just scoop it out of a thing and put it in the box and give it to you, and they don't squirt nothing on it. And let me tell you this, I feel better living in a country that doesn't squirt anything onto my popcorn. So
you said sweet. I don't think we do that. At least
sweet popcorn's the best. You got to get sweet popcorn. It's so good. Sweet popcorn. So whenever you move over here, take it to the cinema. We're getting you some sweet popcorn, and then while we're watching the film, a doctor will operate on you and take your brain out while we're in the cinema. Okay. And I'm like, that's rude, but also I'm watching the film.
It's part of the process. You got to get into it now.
That's just what I do on like every first date I go on.
What makes it?
Somebody gets their brain taken out. What
makes it sweet popcorn though? Like what do they put in it?
Sugar.
They just put sugar in it? That's interesting.
I don't know. Sugar is sweet. Well, like you get.
Because there's the thing people do here, where they'll put like M&Ms in their popcorn. So the M&Ms get like hot and they melt a little bit, and then you have like chocolatey popcorn. I've seen people do that. I'm allergic to chocolate, so I can't do that.
America is notoriously health conscious.
Healthy? Yeah.
Oh yeah. We all know this about America. It's the one thing
the liquid butter that's like hot orange. Yeah. That's what color butter is.
And then we put like bitter ass chocolate into it, and then watch the chocolate melt into the butter. So this was just talking about Psylocke. Talking fucking popcorn. Anyway, Hot Psylocke.
Anyway, going back to Hot Psylocke, yes. So it is a solo series that is taking place concurrently with the X-Men book that she's a part of. And I won't lie, like that seems like that is the X book right now, because that's the book where stuff's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, but there's no horses in that.
There's no horses in it.
I'm telling you, man.
We got Magneto and Xavier's chair floating around, still wearing his helmet.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. The reason they've explained that, they haven't really dove into it, but the explanation is that Magneto like developed a rare disease due to the resurrection protocol.
Yeah.
That like his body's breaking down. So that's awkward for him because there's nobody to resurrect him now.
Wow. Yeah. They'll find a way. They always find a way.
Yeah.
But what if he had a horse, though?
What if he had a horse?
What if he had a horse?
But yeah, no, like I said, there have been some other books that have some solo characters in there. There's the Weapon X-Men book. They had their first big crossover between the two X titles, the Raid on Grey Malkin, where the Xavier School for institution for learning and what have you. It's been converted into a prison for mutants, and Xavier is one of the prisoners there. And the irony of it, yeah. And there are several mutants, like very big name mutants, who are trapped there also that have been outfitted and turned into like mutant hunters against their will, like Blob and Siren. But yeah, so they had that storyline where basically Beast, Jubilee, and Calico were all kidnapped by this group and put in the prison, and so both teams of X-Men attacked to break them out. Got into some conflict with each other because Cyclops going, "What the fuck, you brought these kids in?" And Rogue's like, "You're teaming with Magneto, for God's sake." And there was the big reveal that Xavier was one of the prisoners there, with Rogue like, "We got to break him out," and Cyclops was like, "The fuck we do? We are free. We need to let him stay."
Fair.
So the next big crossover is, I believe it is called Manhunt, where Xavier has broken out of this prison, and now it is across multiple titles of, people trying to find him.
Yeah. What do you think he is?
I think he is in Istanbul, not Constantinople.
I think he's at the cinema.
Have popcorn?
He likes it. He likes butter.
Well, remember, he got his brain taken out and put in with Red Skull's brain.
That's true. So he knows.
He knows the deal.
Yeah, and it's gonna happen again.
Well, we know what the thumbnail art's gonna be in this episode, don't we?
I thought it was gonna be a horse. Honestly, I really thought it was gonna be a horse.
Maybe the horse is in the movie theater with us.
What if the horse is the one operating on him? The horse is putting his brain on.
Well, there you go. I don't know how we're gonna top that. There are several characters that are, of course, missing that a lot of people are surprised by. No hints of what's going on with the New Mutants, except we know what's happened with Doug Ramsey. He is now Apocalypse Jr., and it's sad looking.
Because every time they've done Apocalypse Jr.,
it's worked out.
Every single time, man.
It's like when they make a new Horseman of Death.
You were like, horse, man of death. See, horse
maybe that's what's going to happen to Calico's horse. It's going to be turned into the Horseman of Death. He's going to be a reverse centaur, horse upper body, man back legs.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Because that would make it hard to operate, though.
Would be.
Because you just have to use the hooves.
Just some duct tape the operating tools on the hooves.
Yeah, which I think is dangerous.
A little bit, but I mean, He did go to medical school, so you got to give him credit for that.
Did he pass, though?
I mean, he's got his doctorate.
Does he, or does he just operate on people for fun? We don't know.
I think he enjoys it.
You got to read the book to find out.
Yep.
And then Marvel, guys, what is this? Like, we told you to write a book about X-Force, and this is like, what the fuck is this horse operating shit? I'm like, no, it'll make sense. Just trust me.
So that being said, it took 20-ish years for them to make another NYX title.
Fucked it.
So I doubt we're going to see another NYX title anytime soon. But X Factor and X-Force are two books that have a lot of weight behind them due to previous long runs. So I'm sure we will see another X-Force and X Factor.
Dude, we're absolutely going to see another X-Force. You kidding me? They're not going to start till it hits double digits. They have to. They have to keep going with X-Force. Everybody loves it. But the trick is bring Deadpool back for real.
Yeah. I mean, that seems to be. I mean, what we've learned is that it kind of reminds me of a little bit, and it's not been confirmed or anything, so I don't know if it's the truth. But I remember I told you that you guys after they did Crisis on Infinite Earths, and they were like redoing everybody's origins at first, where like Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman, they were all going to be in their own books, and they were not going to interact with anyone else. We're going to start over from scratch, and then they had like Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis and Kevin Maguire were like, hey, we have Justice League. What characters can we use? And DC went, that's a great question. Here, have Booster Gold and Blue Beetle and Guy Gardner and Black Canary
Old lady.
And there's an old lady. And they kind of had to make it work. But the difference is that Giffen and DeMatteis approached their original idea, threw it away, and decided to make a comedy book. And Justice League International was a very popular and very successful series for a long time because of that. And it seems like something like that tried to happen, where I think these creative teams were given a list of these are the characters you're going to use. And I think some of them tried to make some magic happen, and ultimately it fell short.
Wow. That's what happens.
It happens.
It happens. It happens all the time.
So I will tell you that right now, John is at 180 something on his movie reviews, or his movie watching for 2025 so far.
180?
180 something.
That seems kind of low for him.
It does until you think like he has almost watched 200 movies in the first 2 months of the year. So if he keeps at that pace, he's looking at 1,200 movies by the end of the year.
He could hit that.
He could.
Yeah, I think
he didn't. He didn't hit it last year though. He ended up in the 900s.
I believe in him this year.
Okay. Well, if you're listening to this and you want to see where John is currently sitting at his movie watching, he's very, very good at updating his letterbox. You can find it at Big John Bowski at Letterbox. Yeah. Dylan, what's going on in the world of Captain Explodey?
I don't know.
Okay.
Something to do with a horse, I guess.
What about what's going on in the world of Dexter Fistington?
That's one of my favorite names I ever came up with. I was so
You're pretty happy with
that one. I think I wrote that into a story that I really liked. I don't think it's in the book. I think it's going to be in like the second book that I'm writing, but it's a classic. When you read it, you're like, wow, Dexter Fistington, what a guy.
What a guy.
What a guy.
Are you familiar with Red Dwarf?
I love Red Dwarf.
I do too. Big fan of Red Dwarf. I went as a hologram for Halloween one year.
Great show, man.
Yeah, I was thinking of Ace Rimmer. What a guy.
I thought as soon as you said that, I'm like, I know exactly what you're talking about.
There you go. Anyway, I just have my other podcast, Large Old Cup. It's a spoken word storytelling stream of consciousness podcast. It's whatever it is, and I'm doing it. So it's been fun. We are not on Instagram anymore. We are not on X ever. We are on Blue Sky, so that is a social media platform and works kind of like Twitter. It's been seeing a little more activity as the months have gone on, as
that's good.
The owner of X/Twitter has making his presence known in many other ways.
Are people like looking at us on Blue Sky?
We're getting some activity.
Is that because of the profile pictures?
Probably. Well, because like in Blue Sky, you can link the video, and people can just sit and watch the whole video on Blue Sky.
Ooh.
Like you don't have to go to YouTube to watch us. You can just watch us on Blue Sky.
Well, so you don't link to YouTube, you just upload the video?
No. You link to YouTube, and it will put the YouTube video in
yes,
the post.
It plays,
and you can just watch the whole thing.
But that counts as like a play on YouTube.
I believe it does.
Sweet. Good. I dig it. Good.
All right. But until next time, we are the Smark Avengers. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
You're going to do the John? You got to do the John thing.
I'm not going to do the John bit.
That's
pretty accurate.
Was it good? Okay.
I think he'd be pretty happy with that.
That's good. I aim to please John.
Well, we all do. And he's a hard man to please. And if you don't please him, he will kill your dog.
Oh, just the dog. Well, thank God
I don't want him to kill my dog.
John, don't kill Dylan's dog.
For real though, seriously. This isn't a bit. Don't kill my dog. Don't fucking if you dare.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.